All right, so there's several rules, okay? First thing about covalent naming. Is they use prefixes. Okay? They use prefixes to indicate how many of each element there are. Okay? And so, like when we were doing ionic compounds, the reason that we knew how many of each element there were is because we crisscross charges. But do you have charges in covalent compounds? No, because they're sharing electrons. All right? Ionic is giving and taking, so it actually has a charge. Covalent compounds are sharing electrons, so there is no charge. So we can't figure out what the formula is based off that. We have to use prefixes to be able to do that. All right, here are your prefixes. 1 is mono. 2 is di. 3 tri. Tri, like a tricycle. 4 is tetra. 5 is penta. 6 is hexa.
Because the hexagon has 6 sides.
Yes.
How do you make the
7. 7 is hepta. 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 8 is octa. 9 is nona. We're only going to 10. Nona. Like a nonagon has 9 sides. And 10 is deca. Okay? All right. So you're going to use prefixes. Okay? On each element, you're going to name the first element, then name the second element. The ending of the second element will be IDE. So just like when you did the ionic naming, covalent naming also ends with IDE. So the second element is going to end with IDE. The second element.
Oh, so it's the same rule as before.
Yes, except this time you're using prefixes. Now, there's one exception. Exception. Okay? Do not use mono on the first element. So if you only have one of the first element, you don't use mono on it. Okay? So all right, if you had this compound right here, how would you name that? Carbon.
Monocarbon oxide.
No. Carbon dioxide. Okay? Carbon dioxide. You don't say monocarbon dioxide.
All at the same time. Remember, keep moving. Get what you need and move on. No congregating.
All right. So you don't say monocarbon dioxide. You just say carbon dioxide. You don't use mono if there's only one of the first element. However, if you had a compound like this is nitrogen monoxide. Because you only have one of the second element, So you use mono on the second element, but you don't use it on the first. Yes.
No.
So
So you don't say monocarbon monoxide.
how do you know the difference between the ionic and
So, okay, covalent compounds are bonds.
we cannot say. We do that all the time.
You know how hard this is to line this up with two different screens. All right, bonds between nonmetals and nonmetals. So if you have two nonmetals bonding together, that's covalent. If it's a metal and a nonmetal, it's ionic. So that's how you know where it's at on the periodic table.
Oh, so if it's a metal and then something else, and it's the
I'm
other
talking
one.
like just looking at NF3. Like,
So nitrogen is a nonmetal, right? Like you know where that's at on the periodic table.
right, okay.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like you know where your split line is, like that stair step line. Things to the left are metals, things to the right are non-metals. All right. Now, I will tell you everything on this sheet is a covalent compound. So everything on here is a non-metal, but it won't always be that way. All right, let's look at a few examples right here. So NF3 is going to be nitrogen, what?
Wait, hold on. Trifluoride?
Trifluoride.
Oh, it's tri because it's a 3.
Yes. Now, the real challenge comes when you start getting ionic compounds and covalent compounds mixed together, and you got to keep the rules straight. Covalent, you use prefixes. Ionic, you do not. You got to be able to recognize which is which. All right. Number 2. What's the first part of it? Di. What's P? Phosphorus. Okay, diphosphorus. And what's the second element? It's oxygen, and how many are there?
5.
5, which means
Pentaox.
it's going to be pentaoxide. Now, I'm not going to be super picky about this, but I will say this. Whenever you have double vowel sounds, if it's either an OO or an OA, you eliminate one of the vowels. Like you normally don't say pentaoxide. You eliminate the A and just say pentoxide. You wouldn't say monooxide. You just say monoxide because one of those O's is going to get eliminated. So diphosphorus pentoxide is going to be...
Wait, so you can pick if it's an A or an O? Or is it...
No, usually it's going to be the A if it's an A and an O. If it's OO, I mean, it's just one of the O's.
Basically, it just needs a sound. That sounds correct.
Yeah, that's me, fellas.
Yeah, did anybody lose a Chromebook? There you go.
Thanks, boys.
I was connected.
See you later. All right. Third one, okay? So we have NO3. First element's going to be nitrogen trioxide. Easy enough? Okay, now, on 4, hold on 4, this is the same element bonded together. You don't say difluoride in this case. This is just fluorine. You just name the element because it's just a single element. There might be multiple atoms of it, but it's still just a single element. So you just name the element, fluorine. Tanner, you have a question?
Yeah, trioxide. Since the vowel thing.
Yeah, trioxide. In that case, it's only if it's an OOOA or AO. The I does not normally get affected. Ben?
Okay, so like, if you're like, if you have like nitrogen and oxygen, how do you know which one goes first?
So normally, it's the one that's furthest to the left on the periodic table.
Oh wait. Yeah, he is.
All right. Yeah. So typically, the one that is more metallic, like furthest to the left, both of them are non-metals, but the one that's furthest to the left towards the metal side, that's typically going to be the one that's listed first. Like nitrogen, fluorine, nitrogen is further to the left. Phosphorus and oxygen, phosphorus is further to the left. So that's normally the way it goes. All right. Anybody have any questions on that?
Wait, so how would you do the next one?
So you would.
Like, would that be hydrogen monobromo? Yeah, that's why I'm really confused.
So yeah, technically, this actually, it is a covalent compound, but it's a special kind. So this would actually normally go by another name, but if we named this as a covalent compound, it would be hydrogen monobromide. Bromide. Okay. And the reason why this is a little bit different is because this actually is also an acid, and acids, they kind of have their own way of being named. So yeah, name it like a covalent compound for right now, but know that there are some things that could change based off of other qualifications that they have. Like here's an example right here. Number 8. So this is carbon. What?
Carbon
Tetrahydride.
Oh, that doesn't make sense.
Okay, tetrahydride. So hydrogen becomes hydride whenever you name it like this. Now,
Wait, why is it T? Oh, no, my bad.
here's the thing. Normally you would not call this carbon tetrahydride. Like, if you were referring to this, this is methane. And that's the common name for it. But if you're naming it systematically, like with a covalent compound, carbon tetrahydride is the name.
There's all of them.
So everybody understand?
I think I actually get this.
Good.
It's just, I have one question.
What,
so
Jimmy?
on the test in the future, am I gonna have to know that, like, for example, N stands for nitrogen, or like P stands for phosphoryl?
There are going to be some elements I'm going to require you to know. And actually, I'm going to talk to you about that today. So, yeah.
Question. Are we supposed to like memorize these?
The prefixes, you should be familiar with those prefixes too. Yeah. Which a lot of these are like your shape names. So they should be somewhat familiar. All right. Now, if we are writing the formula, okay, you're really just doing the opposite, the reverse. So you're taking the element, and if it has a prefix, you're going to use that prefix to determine how many there are. So carbon right here, just carbon, just one carbon. It's just going to be C, and then disulfide, so that would be sulfur, and di means two, so it'd be CS2.
I get this. It's just my only issue is that I don't know some of the
Elements.
yeah. Is that like a list or something?
I'm going to give you a group.
Perfect.
Why was there a class of light?
All right. Now, number 12, we have dihydrogen. So that means H2, and then sulfide is, and actually this is named like an acid also. If we named this, we would probably call it dihydrogen monosulfide. Sounds weird because it is, but, huh?
We have to know that.
No, like I'm just asking you to name these and follow the covalent rules without really any major exceptions here. So this would be H2S. And then we'll do one more. So 13, sulfur hexafluoride. So sulfur is S. There's only one of those. Hexa is 6. So this is SF6. Anybody know what sulfur hexafluoride is? So you know how helium makes your voice really high?
It's the stuff that makes it really low.
Sulfur hexafluoride is a gas that actually makes your voice really low.
I don't think my voice can get
I can't, trust me.
Amy,
Yeah.
what's the thing that makes it go super high?
Helium.
We just.
Did you just say that?
Yeah, it's okay. I do the same thing all the time.
Does anybody know why it does that?
Yeah, because
Helium rises
and it goes
so makes
up.
your voice-
into
Well,
your
it's
throat.
not exactly. So here's the reason. Really, your voice, the reason that you hear it the way that you do is because it's sound waves traveling through air. Well, you're used to it traveling through the air the way that it is, normally. Helium has a lot lower mass and a lot lower density than the mass of the air and the density of the air. So naturally, it's going to sound different as the sound waves actually travel through because of that, okay? With sulfur hexafluoride has a mass that is greater than normal air, so it's going to sound lower because of it, because it has to travel through a denser gas. All right, anybody have any questions? Okay. Take your periodic table in front of you.
Oh,
Did we get our vowels right?
do we? Your pencil pouch.
Are we writing stuff on it, or do we just do it?
You're going to write a little bit on it. Circle. Okay, and do whatever you need to do to mark these, circle them, mark each one. I don't care what you do, but just as long as you know.
No, I have another one.
There's some extras up here on the counter. What these are going to be, these are the elements that I want you to know. And we will have a quiz about this the first week of second quarter. So not next week, but the week after. So you have quite a bit of time. Okay? But I'm just telling you now so that you can kind of get a jump on these. All right.
I'll be like, here. You know?
So right here, the first two columns, all those elements.
Oh my.
I thought it was. I don't have any like. I'm just gonna circle mine. Wait, what is this? You have to know what these are?
You need to know the name and the symbol.
I thought we were gonna know like where they are.
I don't need you to know exactly where they
Do
are.
you need to know atomic number or literally?
You don't need to know the atomic number, just the
You
name
just
and
need
the
to
symbol.
correlate the name and the symbol.
Okay? Because if I'm writing the name of something, I need you to be able to write the formula and know that silver is AG or gold is AU.
I'm making
Okay?
a Quizlet.
Something like that. A Quizlet would be a good thing.
Send it to me, Macy.
All right.
Consider mine.
So the other ones that I need you to know are going to be from boron down to gallium, and then over down to lead. Pick up lead. and from there, everything over from there.
That's
So
a
we need
lot
to know
of elements.
germanium and arsenic.
Yes,
That's like half of the periodic table.
it's not half.
Yes,
Okay.
it is.
It's not.
I'm just being dramatic.
Maybe a third.
Wait, Mr. Harrington, can you go back, please?
Can you like scooch it?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
At least
There
people
are-
know where they are.
There are a few transition metals that are just kind
Oh,
of.
of course, how could they not? Those are important.
And I'm just gonna pick those ones up.
Wait, so wait.
Holy
what?
crap, there's more. I'm really confused.
And that is it right there.
That's definitely half.
Mr. Harrington, that's really confusing.
That's more than half.
Okay, but look, guys, there should be some of these that you should be pretty familiar with. So
Like
there's probably about 50, all right, in that list. But you got to understand, some of these are ones that you have dealt with quite a bit, and they should not be things that you're like starting out with just having no idea what it is. Okay? So there's probably a handful that are going to be a little bit more difficult than others, and I would identify those early. But I mean, look, these ones that are over here in these first two columns, like you probably know all these already.
About 2.
Okay? Like you should know hydrogen is H, lithium, Li, beryllium, Be, sodium.
Strontium. I know exactly
Okay.
what that is.
Well, Jimmy, that's probably one you're going to have to learn. All right?
He already knows what it is. Just
But
I already know.
those have been things that we have talked about a decent bit, and we've kind of worked with in terms of their symbols and whatnot. So there shouldn't be like you shouldn't have to memorize every single one of them.